What
Thank you, sir.
match eye height does is put your view ball in the same place, same line the other person view ball is.
This reminds me of Cheech and Chong.
Why is that?
Mrs. Sister Elephant.
I haven't seen Cheech and Chong in a while, so you're gonna have to remind me.
It's on. It deals with them about a drug enforcement officer
Yep.
coming and telling them about drugs back then.
Yeah.
And some kid stand. It's one. I think it's Cheech stands up and everything else like this, and he goes, "Yeah, sir, I got a question." And he goes, "Yeah, man with the plaited shirt and striped pants or something like that."
Yep.
Well, yeah, what is your question? If you know somebody's selling drugs, blah blah blah, like this, can can you report them? Oh yeah, you can report them. Well, I want to report Billy. He sold me fucking some shit, and it had to be fucking oregano. Arguing back and forth. Shut up, you buke. Back and forth. And when it first starts out, class, shut up. Really fucking loud, fucking hilarious. Shit.
Hello,
Billy.
welcome to Metaverse Degen. I'm Lion.
I'm on Lion Raptor, and we don't have the guest today because it's just me and Lion. And we're gonna shoot some shit and hopefully see where it goes. Thank you for showing up. So what's on the agenda, Lion?
Well, I shared an article with you this morning, and that'll be down below. I believe it was done by medicalexpress.com, and the title is Virtual Reality Reveals Link Between Sense of Presence and Cognitive Abilities. And it basically goes through a study that was done with VR and people completing tasks. Supposedly, the study found that it improves cognitive abilities such as memory when you do tasks and educational stuff within a VR setting. The stronger the sense of presence in your environment, the bigger correlation in the cognitive function there is, supposedly.
Okay.
I figure you could talk
Well, I
about
can see that. Yeah, I can see that because like I said, if you logically think about it, when you're looking at what you're doing in here compared to the real world, your vision is to blind your side. You have to actually turn your head more than glance over because your eyes only go so far, and then you're going, "Oh wow, that's my headset." You got to virtually focus on what you're doing.
Yeah. Well,
so don't get me wrong, you're doing the same thing in the real world and everything else like this, but you're educating yourself more to pay attention harder. I'm guessing harder to work because that's what when you're looking at stuff, you're really in VR. You're really looking at the details and stuff like this. Well, it'll be the same thing if I was teaching you something or you were learning something in a situation that you're going to focus on it more because you don't got anybody over here going, "Hey, what's the answer to 6x4 and blah blah blah?" No, you don't have that.
There's one thing I think that also may have some correlation with what's going on. I remember back in high school, there was a study being done about video games and its correlation to help with problem solving and completing tasks and multitasking.
Multitasking.
Because apparently, video games specifically light up multiple portions of the brain, which is why it's also addictive, but also it improves certain functions of the brain. So I'm sure VR, being a combination in a learning environment, both the video game and learning, you have that all the benefits of what goes on in a video game with the brain while also learning things. And as you said, you have the blinders on at the same time. You don't see the outside world. Your phone is inaccessible. I'm sure in a school environment, you won't have OVR toolkits. So you just can't open up a browser and look through whatever. It's going to be very specific, but at least you're going to have all of those benefits at once in a controlled environment.
Well, it's a good example, and I'm going to use my stepson. He went, and we're not going to talk. It's not dealing with gun control or anything like that, so that's not the issue here. He went to. I sent him to to a what the hell you want to call it, gun safety.
Yep.
And everything else like this. And this kid never has ever put a rifle to his shoulder that I know of.
Yeah.
And everything else like this, ever. And everything else like this. He went and everything else like this, and the guns instructor, not one but three of them, wanted to know where he got his ability from. Did your father teach you how to shoot, or a friend? He goes, no, I learned it all on video games.
Hmm.
See, it right there, just like what you're talking about, you can imagine how much more it's going to teach you this, you know, in all different forms. I'm not saying guns, but it was damn accurate with a rifle. And they were just literally dumbfounded. How can a video game, you know how it is, oh, it's bad for you and everything, but it can actually teach you and everything else in different forms and everything else like this. It's, you know, if you got something like this with your hands, you know, you're paying attention to your hands if you're writing or anything like this. Well, like me, I've got dyslexia. It's a real bitch. It might help more in that field where, and everything else like this, to make it straightened up where the flaws might be at. I don't know how it works, but it's possible because you don't realize, you don't think nothing of it. Logically, think about it. You got this headgear on, you're doing stuff and everything else, but you never look at what you're actually learning with this on. Because you're in here having fun, or you're playing a game. Hold on. My nose is running, and I ain't chasing it either, so don't get that. But you know, see what I'm getting at? It's the idea that you are training yourself in a new form. Completely different form. It's not putting a pencil, well, you can put a pencil in your hand and write, but you're looking at it completely where you're more functioning with what's in front of you, you know, because you got to turn yourself around. You're not standing up or anything like this. You're pretty much in a zone, and you look at all the stuff that's going around, all the details and stuff like this, if that's what you're seeing, like avatars, the worlds that people create, because you know it's a lot. But look at the educational part of it. Where you can teach you to do stuff, you know, if it's down to making a cake. You know, look at the bright side. You're making a cake and everything else. You got the general idea how to do it. You got to put it in there properly and everything else like this. To that point, you know, pouring the milk. To that point, you can overfill it, you know, and everything else like this. So when you bake it, but then when you go do it in real life, you got that idea, this is the way it's supposed to be done, knowing there's other ways to do it and everything else like this, but you're not going to come out with a hockey puck and try to feed it to your brother. It doesn't work that way, you know. Well, it's one of those things, go, Mom, I made a cake for my brother Billy, and you go, yeah, we can't even stick a knife in it, we can use it as a walkway.
On that point, it's probably one of the bigger reasons why I think it's very smart for, like, for example, police academies and stations using some of them are using VR to train people, so you could be in a high tense environment without actually being there. So in terms of like learning how to handle certain situations or proper equipment safety, such as guns, it would most definitely help in that field, especially if it helps cognitive function and sense of presence. If you feel like you're in that situation, it could correlate to you being able to remain calm in that kind of environment.
Yeah, where if you're having somebody getting in an officer's face and everything else like this, yeah, I could see that. Well, look at another way. Look at the way it is if you could, okay, here's another situation. It's one of the hardest things is when you have a couple and they have a child and that child gets up to the age to drive.
Yeah.
Correct? It's hard to get them driving time to learn properly. You know, I got to turn the turn signal on. I got to put the car, got to adjust the mirrors. All that in here, it give you the basic outline. They could drive constantly, but they're in their own environment. You don't have to worry about they're going, oh shit, they just backed into the neighbor's car out of the driveway.
Yeah.
It has its pluses big time. It could really educate in so much. What about driver's ed?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, you're not out in the real world and everything else, but if it's making you focus on what you're doing instead of going, oh wow, look at that, wow, I want to go to Mickey D's, see what I'm getting? I just took my head off the fucking driving point. You're actually you're teaching your kids to focus on the task in hand instead of going, or my phone's on, I gotta, no. See what I'm getting? It works that. Now, if you look, we've talked this before, look at old folks that can't get around, they want to go and maybe they want to more educate what they are. They might be a real smart person and everything else like this, but they've noticed that don't get me wrong, your motor skills slow down a little bit and everything else like this, but maybe to keep the brain active and everything else, it gives them tasks to keep them active instead of just, well, sun come up, sun went down.
Yeah.
It's a sad situation to see folks like that. That's what they do. But at least this way, they're getting some, and even if they have, how you want to put it, even if they were a whole bunch of them, like they try to get them to interact, with people in real life, in the old folks' home and everything else. At least this way, they can interact doing something together, knowing that they can't get around to actually do it. Think about it, you're in a wheelchair, your new best friend that's in the old folks' home, he can't get around. Here you can at least, in VR itself, you could go out and play a game of golf with the guy.
Yeah.
Like you used to. See, you can go out and play a game of golf. Go fishing with your buddy. You can't go fishing because they ain't taking you out to go fishing. Come on.
Yeah.
But here you got to bait it, throw it out there, reel it, the whole thing, and you can sit there and shoot the breeze with somebody, still interacting what you're doing with, and be in a surrounding that you get to pick where you want to go. Oh, maybe you're a hunter that used to enjoy going hunting with your grandkids. Well, your grandkids are grown up. You're an old folks, and you want to go hunting with your grandkids. You could go hunting with your grandkids in here without actually leaving, but you can, have fun.
Yeah.
Things, that situation, stuff like that is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, indeed. And also sort of in that ballpark, but not really. There's also some studies going out saying, we're going to move the camera.
Put it back where you belong. What the hell wrong with you? It ain't supposed to be behind your head.
Well, another thing I was seeing is there are some doctors using VR to help people with mental issues as well, like PTSD, for example, anxiety and depression. Apparently, VR in the realm of like cognitive ability has some really good uses for those things. Apparently, as well as PTSD in the terms of like treating those things. Apparently it's been used there. Also, apparently it's good as a replacement for anesthetic VR, distraction or something of that nature. Some of the things it's being used for, I think, is pretty cool. Oop.
Oh yeah, well, look at it. If you're educational and stuff like this, that you're learning how to properly stitch somebody up, or different types of scenarios that come in that you got to analyze what's the situation and what's the problem. Well, how are you going to get that problem if it doesn't there? Oh yeah, you got somebody with an ingrown toenail. Okay, I'm just using that for example. And everything else like this, you're going to find somebody or you're going to find somebody with an ingrown toenail to show you how to properly fix it. See what I'm getting? Here you got to work on a patient that's got an ingrown toenail, but it's in VR, and the proper way of fixing it and going through it, somebody else is, you got the regular doctor. He's watching maybe on a screen and seeing what you're doing and everything else like this, and if you make a mistake, he can correct it, can help you where you're doing. It's because, don't get me wrong, you need those interactions with the real life. Don't get me wrong, you can't throw that out. But you got a general feel.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing anymore with most people. You got to get a general idea of what you're doing. If you go in blind and you got a book to show you, but that's not enough. Some people need that hands-on situation
There are
sink it in to get it to kick in gear. Go, yeah, I got it.
there are already some places using VR as medical teaching aid for that exact reason, like
Hmm.
surgery, for example. Since you have a lot more control of here in VR of like what kind of problem the patient has and what kind of patient you have. Are they going to be male, female? Are they overweight or underweight? What is it, their body type? And you can control all of those things so you can so someone can have that hands-on experience without actually being there. And
Mm-hmm.
using VR as a teaching aid, I think, is a pretty good idea because you have a lot of control over what kind of scenarios you want to run. Because VR, as of right now, and things like Vrchat, for example, you can pretty much build whatever it is you want. The world is your oyster and how you have it run.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Itchy nose. Sorry, folks. Got an itchy nose. Man, I got a problem this morning. No coffee. That's it. Okay. No, but you're right. Yeah, there's so much open field into it. Oh, we could go on and on because you can look at a different situations to different fields. You know, you could be somebody working on a car. It could be working how to wire up a house correctly without
Yeah,
causing gap. Putting in a gas hot water heater. It goes forever in different forms and everything else like this. But you still got the same thing we always keep. This is VR, but you got to keep the reality back to learn what you've learned to take it into the real world.
of
And
course.
that's the biggest thing. It's got to,
Well,
got to go. Well, look at it. We could go
yeah.
actually a little bit deeper. If you
Okay.
look at it a little bit deeper, if you're in VR and everything else like this, don't get me wrong, we got all this kind of stuff like this, and this is, and everything else like this. But if you turn around and you're in VR and you're learning a situation and everything else like this, what it is you're teaching now, logically, scenario. Just like what you said, if something you're working on, no matter what it is, it gives you the brain to analyze which way. Now there is this way. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes that way is not always correct. You were taught this, but it gives you the idea to think, okay, I can't get around this, but I could go this route and I can get in. Maybe it's working on anything of type that you can't go down that straight path. But you're teaching yourself and your ability to analyze, to think outside the box. There's where it's the biggest thing, is to think. You got your basic lining of teaching of anything. But when you can think around the box, going, yeah, this is the correct way of doing it, but I can't go all the way that correct direction. But I can go around this way and still get the job done.
Yeah.
That's something
So,
that a lot of stuff is not taught anymore, is to think outside
well,
the box.
I'm
This is
just
the way
trying
it's got to be
to
done. You got to
understand
do
what
it.
you just said, and I'm regurgitate. So, using VR as a process to simulate an idea is what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm glad I
To
understood that
simulate an
correctly.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I talk in circles sometimes, but to simulate the idea, the correct way of doing it, but to actually teach you as a person to analyze, yes, this is the right way, but I can't do it. Say you're working on a car. I'm going to use this for example. Every wrecked car gets hit differently in any form. I used to do body work. You can analyze, this is the proper way to take it that I like to tear into it, but what more damage am I doing if I tore into it the way they tell me to do it, and it's going to do more damage to the structure of the car?
Ah.
How can I get around without doing less damage to the structure of the car, knowing it's screwed up anyhow, but why make a bigger problem out of what I got to tear into, and knowing that, okay, I could go and do it this way? To make you think a little bit more outside the box sometimes. And that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing
Well,
you can do. It's great.
that's one of the benefits of using VR to simulate things. Before, whenever you'd ran simulations before VR, you just run on a flat computer screen. And you could still see and analyze this response, but at least here in VR, you have more of a sense of presence of whatever you're trying to simulate. Let's say like a car. If you're to run like For example, there are endless simulations of crash test dummy cars you can watch and see. But here in VR, you could watch the crash and then look at the vehicle up close as well. It's one of those things where the sense of
Mm-hmm.
presence in that specific simulation you're referring to is could definitely it would make a lot of sense in terms of looking at certain things. There are also like engineering companies
Mm-hmm.
that I'm sure do the exact same thing in terms of like grabbing an object in 3D space and spinning around and looking at it the same way you're talking about looking at a car. VR allows you to do those kinds of simulations and move it and then move it around and see it in more of a it's sort of there kind of mentality, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Yeah, you got it.
Well,
Oh, I didn't know
at
I had a
least
shadow.
at least also with things like XR and AR and stuff moving forward, you'd be able to run those things as an overlay to the real world. You could have an entire team wear the same headset and look at the same object in 3D space floating in the middle of the floor, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you're getting there. Because you could have a whole bunch of people that are trained in the same way, and you
Yeah.
put this headset on, and you tell them to, and they're in separate rooms. They have no idea that there's another, blah blah blah. Fix this, whatever it might be. Do this task. Everybody's got a different capacity of doing how they do that stuff, and everything else like this. Just thinking outside the box. The good one is good one. Not trying to, but the movie Men in Black,
Yeah.
right, where Will Smith is sitting there and he's taking that test and he can't do it. He thinks outside the box, so he goes over and grabs the table and slides it over while everybody else is trying to fight. That's thinking outside the box. No
Yeah.
matter how much noise it made. It's the biggest. It's just the biggest way to
Well,
analyze different things in
yeah.
that situation.
Well, VR I'd say VR as a possible future aid and tool is something I think I'm glad to see people are looking into. Because for now, the VR is mainly used as entertainment by people like you and I in a 3D environment or whatever, talking
Mm-hmm.
with friends or raving or whatever. But I am excited to see VR being used in other means education, engineering, the medical field. It's really cool to see it spread to those things. And I'm curious to see what else is done with it as well, especially in those fields, because the possibilities is endless. It's still a new technology, even though it's been out for like 5 to 7 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, like Ready Player One, where you're more in react and we're not having controllers in our hands. That's all in a glove form. They're making that. They're doing that. You're gonna have you have more. You don't have objects in your hands like we do. I'm flopping up my controllers in my hand without dropping them. But you're gonna have a glove on that you can actually interact with your hands. It does what you. They're getting there. It just
Yeah.
people are biting at it, trying to get it to where it's more easier, where you got more fingers control, all kinds of stuff. The gearing's gonna get lighter. We talked this before. It's going to get lighter. It's going to be a lot easier, so you don't feel like you're going, wow, that's great ground. I wish I could lift my head. It's going to get there where it's going to be so simple. You just like you said, put on a pair of glasses, and you're already on the roll. It's getting there.
Oh yeah.
It's just
Well, in terms of controllers, I think as of right now, there are a few concept ideas in the works and being produced of like gloves that'll replace your controllers.
mm-hmm.
And they also seem to have haptic feedback as well. So if you like grab an object, your hand will stop around the object as well, as if you're holding it. My guess
Mm-hmm.
is they'll probably work similar to how like the new Quest feature works with the fingers, where you can replace your controllers with your hands. Or if you like you do certain finger motions, you'll move forward or jump or whatever. I think that may
Mm-hmm.
take over at some point, where you have like a camera in the front of your headset looking at your hands as you control or whatever. But if you were to like, let's say you're in a surgery simulation and you're wearing the glove, you'd be able to grab and feel the scalpel as you go in and
Yep.
do whatever as you do, because
As you
it sets
you can
as
feel it in your hands.
yeah, it would
You'd feel the pressure against your fingers. Yes.
yeah, It's
going to get there. You're
well,
correct.
it's
Hmm.
already getting there. It's the tech's being worked on now, and I believe it should be available to purchase soon.
That'd be great. That'd be nice to get something out of your hands that you can actually, when you're picking up the object. Now, that's where the technology is going to be fun. Logically, think about it. If you pick up a screwdriver, everybody picks up a screwdriver differently, right? Holds it in their hand differently. You're going to have where they got those sensors to feel those points. Somebody picking up the screwdriver, and you can feel it in your hand where you're picking it up, because logically you don't have it in your hand, correct?
Yeah.
It's not there.
Did you freeze? Yeah, I think you froze. Sorry, folks. Technical difficulties. Give us a second.
You know how that is when you don't have your coffee in the morning, your shit just falls out. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I don't know what fucking dropped it out. There's nobody on.
Well,
It had a hiccup, and it went boom.
those things happen. Although currently in VR's current state with what happened to you, for example, that's one of the things that stops immersion from happening is the technical difficulties. Although
Mm-hmm.
in order to get a lot of those simulations, whether you're a doctor or police officer, you're going to have a lot of things going on. Although you don't necessarily need high graphics to feel like you're there. As VRChat's proven, you just need enough to feel presence, and that's it.
A hell of a fucking internet to fucking walk and shit in your fucking Fruit Loops in the morning. Yeah, like mine did. Just have coffee. Works every time. That's my problem. Got my coffee.
Well, just saying, for like those simulations we were talking about in the first part of this video, you don't need high graphics to feel like you're there. Like there are a lot of worlds here that make a lot of people feel like they're actually there that aren't really the best graphically. You just need enough parts to trick the brain into thinking you're there, and it doesn't take much.
Yeah, especially at my age, you know that you're going, hold still, hold on. Oh, my ears up here, not down here. Hold on, that brain cell's trying to hop out on that side, so maybe I'll wheel it over and the marble will roll with it. Yeah, it don't take much.
No,
It doesn't take much at all.
It don't take much to feel like you're immersed into a certain environment. It's one of the beauties of VR is like, yeah, high graphics and detail works. Like for example, look at this world. Oop.
Oh, yeah.
For example,
Look at it.
right out there, you'll see ships flying in the background. You see battles and stuff, and it looks really, really good. It does. Though you don't need something of this level in order for you to feel like you're immersed. Like you could have like N64 graphics, for example, and that'd be more than enough for the brain to be like, "Oh wait, am I actually here? Am I in space?" And a lot of the time, your brain would go, "Yep." It doesn't. It's one.
I wish, something. Wish they went way back. Way back, they had a hunting simulator that you had a round thing completely around it, and you had to put a headgear on. I don't know if you ever remember seeing those.
I thought I remember seeing
seen one of those?
something like it back. Was it early 2000s? A friend of mine had it. It's like an orange headset, I think.
No. This was when it came out. Was way back before that. Cabela's had it where it was a hunting game, right? And it was in Cabela's. It's a sporting goods store, fishing and hunting and all that kind of crap. And it was a round object that you walked into. It had a full circle. You had a platform you stepped up into it, and you put the headgear on and everything else like this. And you had a gun in your hand. Not a real one. It was plastic. But that's what it simulated, that you had a gun in your hand. And you were actually hunting and everything, and you had to put money into it. And that was the first, practically, I guess, VR that was actually out. That was way before all the other, game consoles. It was about the time game consoles were getting hot to trot. They had this set up, and this thing was huge. I don't know how anybody could wear the thing. It was fucking heavier than fuck. And I always wanted to try it to see what it was like. I wished I did, because then I could have compared from then to now. You know it?
I'm sure there's someone somewhere who knows what you're talking about. There are a lot of things out there like that. Like, have you ever been to your local mall and you see that VR roller coaster ride? It's like a white seat with a black cloth on the inside. It's like two or three of them. You sit down with friends, you put on a headset, and you feel like you're in the roller coaster, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? It's like in almost
Yeah,
every
I
mall
know.
now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see that you feel like you're moving around and everything else like this, and you're just sitting. You're sitting still in a chair that moves with you. And they're getting stuff like that. Oh God, have you seen some of the newer chairs that they're coming out with?
No.
That you sit in? You know, you grab it. Sorry, I'm dying. Not enough coffee. The that you get into it and everything else like this, and you can put a headgear on and you grab the steering wheel, a real steering wheel, and everything else like this, and the frickin' ball moves. It's
Oh.
in a ball form. You're talking about me being a hamster wheel or a ball. Yeah, it turns. You can actually be like a flying fighter and everything. The whole ball rotates.
Yeah.
Literally will rotate with you, and you got a seatbelt yourself. You could literally go upside down in it. I saw it and I go, wow, somebody's really, and it just rotates with you in it, and you're locked. You know, you're locked down in the seatbelt, 5-point harness, but it's rolling on a rotation thing like you're in an oversized hamster ball, and you're sitting in there doing everything inside of it, and it's moving around. Whatever you do, it moves with it.
Hmm.
It's actually pretty fun. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. But you're getting more and more seating situations where your gear is in or a setup that's giving you an environment somewhat. We're still back. Remember, if we get rid of the controllers out of our hands and you reach forward, you can see the steering wheel. You reach for it, it's in your hands, you can feel the steering wheel. That's the next stage that they're working with, that you've got some object, you go, or a flight stick, you know, whatever. Those objects are there, and you see where they're at, and they're actually there because the camera is focusing on the steering wheel, and it's showing up that you have a steering wheel.
Well,
you know, they're getting there.
I have a thought process. This
What?
doesn't exist, but this is just where my brain went for some reason when you're talking about that. You know how NASA has that giant G-force simulator? It's like a giant lever that spins around giant. The big machine that spins in a circle.
Yeah, the herbal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it spins
if you're
like
to
for
use
G-forces. Yeah.
if you're to use that for VR, instead of like giving them the 3, 2, 1 and turning the thing on, what if you're to have them wear a VR headset so what they see the cockpit of the rocket cabin, and it will start after they go through the entire process of getting the rocket primed to go. So they get ready on their own means for the whole thing. So like, to push the buttons, make sure everything's on and go, as if they're actually there in the cabin, sitting in the seat, all strapped to it the same way they are in that G-force machine. And they hit all the levers, things get going, and then it starts. And what in reality, is spinning a circle really fast, but in VR, they just see the rocket and the windows and everything going forward and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
I wonder
it
if
can
that'll
done.
be a thing.
Well, they do it with pilot. They do it with pilots. They do it in pilot simulator where it's got cylinders onto it, the hydraulic cylinders that are down below, and it's a large size screen.
Yeah.
A full bubble screen. That's not VR, and they probably do it now. I don't know, but they're in a simulator and they're flying. They got all the buttons, all the gauges are doing, and it runs them through a simulator of dog fighting, all that kind of crap. No matter what the ordeal is, and they're flying the whole shebang. Yeah, it's there. It's there. It's just we're taking the next step, and you know that and they can run a simulation through it no matter what the ordeal is. Yeah, it's getting. Well, you want to talk about simulations. They used to have something way back. They were teaching kids education in bigger cities because it was so hard to give them a driver's to run all that many kids.
Yeah.
Through a driving instructor and everything else like this. They had a regular driving setup in front of you that was somewhat, it wasn't the best, but it was somewhat, had the shifting where you had to teach you how to drive stick, literally stick, the pedals, the steering wheel, but you had a screen in front of you. You had to go through the whole motions to teach you how to drive stick. The stick was, yeah, it was there.
Well, The funny thing is
Hmm.
I think I remember something like that back in my high school. We had a vocational school attached to our building, and they had a mechanic shop. And then that mechanic shop had a driving simulator. It looked like an arcade machine, but it was set up to be a driver's seat. As I said, they had the car seat in there. You had the stick on your right side, the car dashboard, the screen, and all the pedals and everything like that. So I know what you're talking about. I think it's the same thing, but when
Hmm.
I was in high
Hmm.
school, they had
Yeah.
that there. It's like, wow, 2006, 2008, somewhere that. No, it's like
God
2000.
damn, you're an old man.
I know. Don't remind me. I graduated in 2010. I'm trying to think back when I was like
Hey.
sophomore, freshman in high school, like 2006, 2007. Back in that area when I was in the
Hmm.
vocational school.
Yeah, it's the stuff they're like I said, what they're using this is an educational thing. Look what there was already there that they started to slide in to help kids with what driving and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, it can be do all kinds of stuff. It can help autistic kids get motor skills that they might be weak in. Think you can. It goes a big open. It's not to fix the problem, but it can educate where
Yeah.
maybe it's lacking, and it just helps out a ton. If
Oh
you
yeah.
logically think about it,
Well,
and everything else like
VR
this.
will allow you to do things that you will allow you to do a lot of things in a safe environment. I guess is a way to put it. Whether it's surgery,
Hmm.
stressful situations, a police officer, the military, pilots, or astronauts, or whatever it is you are, it allow you to do all those things in a safe environment. So you can simulate being wherever, doing whatever, safely and cheaply. It's not like you actually have to have some
Hmm.
giant place set up with a giant machine that spins in a
Oh
circle.
no,
You don't
yeah,
necessarily need,
no. Well,
well, you do need that for things like astronauts, but in a lot of those
yeah,
things,
but
you don't need to be simulate all that in real life. You could do it in VR and still be it'd be okay.
hmm yeah, you look at what you spend in textbooks, you get the general idea of you know, when I was in college, I loved my instructor and everything else like this. He goes, this stuff here, you got this book that's this, and I did body work and all that kind of. Here's this book to tell you all the different stuff, give you a general outline. But he goes, this ain't going to teach you squat. You got to get out and get your hands dirty. Well, guess what? You're somewhat getting your hands dirty, but you're not.
Yeah,
So you're throwing the book down. There it is. You got the general idea of certain questions and stuff like this. But you ain't going to learn the basic outline of it all.
no,
But at least this way, no matter what you're doing, you get a basic outline. Then it's your responsibility in the real world to analyze the situation, where to go with it, how to take what you throw, the education, and what's nice about it. Look on the bright side. If they get this where they got all that educational kinds of stuff out there, not and everything else like this, that if you're in a field of looking instead of reading it, like some of us have trouble with it, you can actually learn at home on something, a general setup. Not trying to take jobs from anything, but you got a general idea the proper way. You're just got to analyze your situation to fix the problem. At least you got an idea how. Oh wow,
yeah,
I know how to fix how to take the drain, the P trap out of underneath my sink. Besides watching on YouTube, I can actually do it.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong. When you watch YouTube stuff, they don't show you every step of the way. They skip certain things into it,
Well,
figuring people got the knowledge. Not everybody's got that.
well, not everyone does.
You
Some people
don't
it
see.
gives you step by step. That's kind of the point of those step by step videos.
Hmm. Yeah, but in this way, if you turn around and take what they're teaching and throw it in here step by step, you're actually getting your hands dirty a little bit before you actually go do it.
Yeah,
See how it works? So you're actually fixing the P trap underneath, knowing your son decided to drop his toothbrush down in it and it went all the way down. How am I going to get it
yeah.
out of there? Well, they can show you different ways, or take the P trap out, well, then get it that
Well,
way.
I do know
All
for like
situations.
VR education, I do know there's a school in VR chat, VRC Academy, I think it's called. And there's I think it's like a VR college, and I think it's there for actual educational purposes, not just role play or for fun. So some of these things are
Mm-hmm.
already sprouting up. I'll put the link to them and their Twitter X now, down below for you to click if you wish. But things like that are already starting to sprout up, and I have a feeling it's not too much further past that we'll see like vocational applications for learning things or skills, whether it's mechanics or what say you that you're trying to learn. I'm sure all these things will sprout up eventually, quickly enough, especially as it's still. I still say VR is in its infantile phase. Like it's been around for 7 years, and Dust has been a while, but it's still infantile. Like I think we're still like the VR equivalent to the Nokia brick phone. We're still in that phase. Maybe not a Nokia brick phone. Maybe we're like the BlackBerry phase, but it's not like smartphone technology, really cool
Mm-hmm.
stuff. It's gonna be a while before you see all of these things roll out, and you'll get be actually in some applications simulating surgery.
Mm. Yeah. I wouldn't want to try it.
No?
That's just not my field. I like working with my hands, but to sit there now, wait a minute. Actually, let's look at it. You're correct. Okay, if you're taught in school, first aid, first aid,
Yeah.
right? Look at the situations that a first aid book. I still got my first aid book when I was taught. We were taught in school, but you got a general idea how to deal with certain issues in first aid that you might, you got to bleed. You got somebody you come up on, you get you're at home and your son cuts himself or something like this. What to do to get your brain to think without panicking? Being a parent, especially your first kid, you're gonna freak. He cuts himself pretty good. Your first thing to do is 911. But if you got a general idea that you're not going to stitch him up, I'm not going that way, but how to properly put pressure on a wound or a broken leg, how to comfort the child.
Yeah.
See what I'm getting at?
Well,
Ensure that things are going to be okay.
yeah.
It's got a lot of open areas that
Well,
even a parent,
well,
can
for
learn,
things like
no matter how old you are.
for things like that is one of the reasons that I'm excited to see how AI and VR will merge together, especially in educational purposes, like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, comforting a child if they're upset, if you're trying to become a better parent. AI will be able to play that
Mm-hmm.
role of a child without necessarily having a child there.
Having the child there.
So you'd be able to be in an
Mm-hmm.
environment or whatever environment you want while having the AI act out as people. And that could even go on for stuff as so far as for some of the things we mentioned before, like the police scenarios. Have the AI be the bad guy
Mm-hmm.
and other officers.
Or the fire department where they get an accident victim.
Yeah.
Because every accident's different. Oh God, there's so many different ways and how to properly get set up. So, that kind of stuff. you know, it can help out a lot. So wide open. Where you got the VR, it's helping you understand in a situation that you think. Now this is where it is. It mounts on the person where you think you might be in that situation and what you want to learn.
Hmm.
What you want to learn if you ever get into that situation of any type,
Well,
whatever it might be, just one of those things.
hmm. Well, I'm sure the best thing you can learn from scenarios like that is familiarity with the scenario, whatever it may be. Because sometimes the best way to think clearly
Mm-hmm.
is not necessarily one aid to help yourself through a scenario like that is familiarity with it. And VR will at least allow you that. You'd be familiar in that stressful
Mm-hmm.
scenario if you're a fire department or a police officer in some stressful, tense situation of sorts. You'd at least sort of been there before. So you're not like all stressed out and all, "Ugh, what do I do? What do I do?" And then tunnel vision. It's,
Yep.
you'd roughly know, oh, hey, I've been here before. I've been in this VR, whatever. I got to do this first or whatever, or that first. Okay, let's go do that. At least have some idea. It's not like you actually have to
Yeah.
be there to feel like you're there. You can simulate it, I guess.
Simulate and educate yourself a little bit. And education's the best thing to learn anymore. It's when
Yeah.
you stop at learning to educate yourself. That's where the dead zone stops.
Yeah.
Gotta educate. Like I say, I keep saying, if you're like me, hey, I'm old. I'm not old, but I'm still eager to learn what's coming out in society and everything else like this to keep up with it. I don't say I'm a pro at it, but I got a general idea of what's going on for the future
Yeah.
reference, whatever it might be.
Well, even
You
that
try
from
to educate
people
yourself.
is very rare. A lot of people will only stick with what they know. And like one of the biggest things I've noticed people are scared of are things they don't understand. So things like new technology, how society changes, or what is deemed normal. A lot of people will not want to learn of what's going on. They do not. They just want to sit in their own little happy place and whatever that may be, and then they go no further than that. That's I'd say good on
Hmm.
you for doing that.
Hey, a good education here. If we ever get invaded, at least we know.
And right behind us,
Oh, I'm gonna lag here.
oop,
Huh?
and right behind
I
us we
lagged a
have.
little bit. I lag.
Do we have some ships? Yep, other side over there. Can't really see them that well. Right over there. Yep, there it is. There's ships you can fly in here. May not be the same as actually flying the
Oh, I
ship,
did.
but it's there. Yeah, you could. There are ships and stuff you can fly over the different areas.
Oh wow,
Right over
be
there.
cool. My luck, I'd run. My luck, I'd fucking probably run into one and get shot down.
You know the
A
the
ball go boom.
well, there's just a lot of situations that VR could be used for, and the sense of presence could definitely help. So it's actually kind of cool to see researchers dive into the subject of sorts. Although I also kind of would like to see and understand this whole phantom sense thing, because it's still under the same line of like sense of presence in the brain.
Okay,
Because
I
I don't
I
know if
got a question for you on.
already.
I got a question. If you had the, you got your headgear. What educational thing for yourself, that you would like to educate yourself? If you had the ability, an educational setup that's coming up, whatever. What would it be?
That I would.
What would you be interested in to educate you that you have no idea in that field at all? Nothing.
Huh.
You just got something. Hey, this catches my eye. I want to know what it's like. Blah blah blah.
Well,
That kind of feel.
I did get one thing.
What would it be?
You know how like
What's that?
it's just I don't think we can necessarily do it, sort of, but you know I'd like to see a lot more like NASA and astronaut simulations. Like how does the rocket work, for example? What
Ah, okay,
stuff like that. I'd like to at least
okay.
see what it's like in a VR environment. Like sit down in the cockpit. What do the buttons do? What does it look like after the rocket goes off from the inside? What does it sound like? All of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see. What about you?
Me, it's something I've only seen once, and that was the ocean. Actually, to go scuba diving. I've always wanted to go scuba diving.
Hmm.
Could never find anybody that you got that educational teaching and stuff like this. I love it. I just love so you get the idea of the proper way. You had this piece in your mouth, but you're underwater and you got to breathe through it. See what you see, all that kind of stuff to give you that educational to pay attention to how much air you got, all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think it'd be that way.
Huh. That'd be pretty cool. Although if you want to come up see the ocean, do stuff like that, you can just come up to where I live. We'll take you out and give you a good time.
Yeah, but you're gonna go. Yeah, but are you gonna go out and go scuba diving with me, man?
Yeah, I'd go. I've never been, so it'd be a first for me.
Oh, really? Oh, that'd be cool. It's gonna be a little bit more than first. You got to go through all the schooling and stuff, and it's not an overnight delivery package.
Oh yeah,
I'll tell you
no.
that much. But
But
it'd be cool. It'd
come
be
up see
cool.
the ocean. You may not be able to go full out scuba diving, but you can just go snorkeling.
Yeah, I've snorkeled a little bit. I usually end up drinking more of the water than what it's worth, but hey, what the hell?
But isn't it half the fun?
Yeah, pretty much going, God, I just swallowed it and I wonder what shit in it. Yeah, that's
Well,
great.
for all those who's swallowed water, whether it's lake water, pool water, ocean water, people have peed in it.
Probably.
Oh no, it's
No,
very
no matter
common.
what.
I think there's a pool
Mhm.
chemical out there that'll change colors when someone pees. And if you're gonna put that chemical in a public pool, it'd be like a color show just watching everyone just kind of pee, kids, adults. It happens all the time. Oceans too.
Yep, going. Oh God! Look what Billy did. What'd he do? I don't know, but he shit his pants and everybody's scattering. I'm getting out of here too. Yep. I wonder if he had a burrito before he got to the pool.
Well, then there's the rare child who leaves a burrito.
Yeah. Like
Well,
Caddyshack.
yeah, like
Hey, it's
Caddyshack.
okay. It's just a Baby Ruth candy bar. It's okay. Take a bite. No, just joking. No.
Yeah. Well, with that said, thanks for listening to us talk. Have a good rest of your day.
And you guys have a good one. We appreciate your time. No matter what, guess what? Watch out for that floating candy bar. It's not a candy bar.